Pierre Poilievre in the House of Commons.
Industry, Science and Technology, presented on Friday, March 26, 2021, be now concurred in. Debate?
Yes.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today, I will be sharing my time with the member for Red Deer, or as I like to call him, the Earl of Red Deer. He deserves all of the credit for his work on this particular bill. He's the longest serving Conservative member on the Industry Committee. I'd like to thank him for his incredible and tireless work at that committee and for his contributions to this important study and the report that we are debating on that study today. Today we are addressing the, quote, the Investment Canada Act, responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and facilitating Canada's recovery. With the economic calamity brought on by the government's mismanagement of the COVID crisis and with its mismanagement of spending, regulations, and taxes, the Investment Canada Act came to the forefront of debate 1 year ago, and still resonates as this piece of legislation gives the federal government the power to review foreign investments in Canada under two broad criteria: national security and the net benefit review. Foreign direct investment reviews are critical in areas that are sensitive to national security, but they can be absolutely necessary, as it is important to protect industries that are linked to the security of the nation. With the growing phenomena of rare earths and other minerals and resources that are not only furnish us with our quality of life, but protect our security and our sovereignty, it is important to ensure that we do not surrender these resources to hostile foreign powers. If I can these sectors, I should say, if I could quote, include natural resources, food and medicine, supply lines, infrastructure, telecommunications and transport, media and culture, the health sector, the hotel industry, given the need to protect personal information, that is, emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, quantum information, processing, and semiconductors. Now, it is clear that these sectors should have the ability to operate in a way that allows for competition and customer choice. However, it is equally important that they not become the successful target of hostile foreign powers who seek to acquire them not for any market-driven purpose, but rather to threaten the security and sovereignty of our nation. And that's why this report is so important. And to that end, I would like to now cede my time to the real expert on this subject, the member who has done more work than anyone on it, and that is the Honourable Member for Red Deer.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for... Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, yes, I'm terribly sorry. I just saw there are hands raised. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the President of the Queen's Privy Council.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I must say I'm a little bit disappointed in the Conservatives, not surprised. Yet again, they're moving a motion to prevent the government from being able to debate what is very important issues before the House. I can understand there's certain aspects that the government, that the opposition doesn't want to debate. For example, the legislation on net zero, which was one of the scheduled pieces of legislation for some discussion. After all, their position in regards to seems to be flip-flopping on the price of pollution. Today, I think they're in favor of it. But anyway, Madam Speaker, I'm asking, does the member recognize the importance of allowing the government to be able to deal with absolutely critical legislation at this time of the year. Why do they continue to want to frustrate the government's legislative agenda? And then on the other hand, when they themselves will say, why isn't the government passing enough legislation?
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, let me start by pointing out the obvious fact that everyone in the House recognizes, and that is that no one wastes more time in Parliament than that member. No one is, in fact, more capable of compressing so many words into so little substance as him. And indeed, I've had constituents say that they wish they could hit a fast forward button when he stands up in the House, and perhaps the legislative agenda of the government would move more quickly if he would say a little bit less and do a little bit more. And I'm also very sorry that the member does not want to discuss the protection of the sovereignty of our industries that are crucial to our national security. Maybe he just wants to sell all of our critical and strategic industries to communist China, whom his leader admires for its basic dictatorship. We in the Conservatives actually think Parliament should be discussing how we protect our strategic industries against hostile foreign takeover. And finally, if the member is so concerned about moving Parliament along, he should talk to his Prime Minister about why he shut the place down for 2 months straight. So that's how I would respond to his never-ending complaining about the opposition's use of Parliament to debate critical issues that affect the lives of Canadians. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking of the Liberal filibusters, I'd like to ask my honourable colleague, we've finally gotten the documents from Victor Lee, although his lawyer says that it was We Charity, maybe the Kielburger brothers, who answered the committee's questions. I'm very concerned. Basic questions. In your role as CFO, what financial information was requested by the Government of Canada in their decision to award the CSSG? His answer, I do not know. What assurance did we give the government that it could handle the financial load? I do not know. This is their CFO. Your signature, Mr. Lee's signature, is on the service contract. Why was the contract retroactive to May 5th? He doesn't know. What assurances were you given on May 5th onwards that expenses would be covered? He doesn't know. I'd like to ask my honourable colleague about this. This is like $500 million plus that we were going to give to the Kielburger brothers. They just walked in, signed this deal, and their CFO can't answer basic questions about due diligence.
Honourable member for Carleton.
The member asked some very good questions. He's absolutely right. Look, the Prime Minister personally intervened to award a $500 million contribution to a group that had paid his family $500,000. That the Mr. Lee is supposedly the chief financial officer of the We Charity, yet doesn't have the most basic information about this $500 million grant that he would have presumably been administering as the CFO. This particular individual has gone missing for roughly a year now. When I originally asked for him to testify at the Finance Committee on the We scandal, he said that he wrote back saying he was too sick. So apparently he's still too sick to testify, and we asked him to answer questions in writing, and what do you know? His answer is that he doesn't know anything about anything. I guess he's taken a page out of the Liberal ministerial playbook, where the government has sent ministers to the committee whose top answer to the most important We scandal questions has been, I don't know.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Red Deer Mountain View.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it's indeed an honour for me to be able to speak here this morning on this motion, and I thank the member from Carleton for I guess recognizing the number of years that I've been associated with the Industry Committee, and certainly honoured to be able to present some of the findings that we have on this particular report. Few things are as important to my constituents and to all Canadians as how the government supports workers, families, and businesses in these unprecedented times. Few things are as important to my constituents as ensuring a strong and prosperous recovery. So Canada's Conservatives have worked tirelessly over the last year to address and fix many of the shortcomings of the ill-designed and flawed assistance programs introduced by the Liberal government. We've stood up for Canadian workers who've tragically lost their jobs due to the Liberal government's slow and inadequate response to the pandemic. We stood up for businesses that have struggled to stay afloat during the pandemic and will continue to do so over the coming months.
Playing whack-a-mole.
Forward a budget that gives so much help to Canadians, the Conservatives don't even have any questions on it.